Hi, I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and today I'm going to show you how to build a house quilt block using the new Shiny Happy Houses quilt pattern. So this is a different pattern than what I usually do. Usually you get a bunch of pieces that are labeled with dog face, dog nose, dog ears. This pattern is going to have pages and pages of parts that all just have numbers on them. And the reason they have numbers on them is because, for example, a little rectangle block or a little trapezoid block, it might be a window in one house, it might be a window frame in another, it might be a chimney in another, it might be a tree trunk in another. So we're going to be mixing and matching all of these pieces to make lots and lots of different houses. And the way it's going to work is when you sign up for the quilt, you get that pattern, all of those pattern pieces, and then every month in 2016, the people who are signed up for the pattern are going to get an email that shows them how to make 3 different blocks, 3 different ways to combine all of those pieces. And they're going to be shown in 3 different colorways. So there's going to be the conventional colorway. This is going to make houses that look like that you might see on a neighborhood street, kind of conventionally colored houses. And then there's going to be a block that is made in more whimsical colors, the way I wish people painted their houses. And then the third option is going to be a gingerbread house version. So any of these house combinations can be made in any of the different colors. So every time you're going to get a pattern of instructions for 3 different blocks, and then they're going to be shown in 3 different colors. So what I want to show you in this video is how you're going to put those blocks together. The first thing you're going to do is quilt your background block, because I'm using the quilt as you go technique for this. It's what I use for all of my quilts. And what that means is you're going to quilt the main block to the batting, and I'm going to show you from the back. You're just quilting it to the batting. There's no backing on it yet. And you have to use 100% cotton batting because you're going to be doing a lot of pressing on this, and a batting with any synthetic fibers in it is going to melt. So I'm going to flip this back over. You're cutting your block and your background batting to about 11 inches square. This is actually a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be exact. When you finish your block after you get it all done, you're going to trim it down to 10.5 inches. So just cut it bigger than 10.5 inches. I usually shoot for roughly 11 inches. After you get it all quilted, before we put anything together, I found that it does best if I give it a good pressing. Because I'm going to applique on top of this quilting, and I found that if I press it before I do the applique, I don't have those quilting lines show through as much. So I'm just going to leave that cool, and I'm going to show you the first piece that you're going to put on. The first thing you're going to think about is always the ground. So there are 3 different ground pieces on this page, and then there's another page in the quilt that has these same 3 grounds, but basically reversed. So we're going to do number 71 here today. Just kind of a gentle sloping hill. And what you're going to do, before I cut into this, I want to point out that this is not printed to the edge of the paper. Depending on what kind of printer you have and its abilities to print edge to edge, you may see some sides on these, but there's a good chance that it's going to cut it off. That's okay. Just cut from the edge of the paper to the other edge of the paper. And you want to cut this piece out just a little bit bigger than the actual piece. You don't want to cut it right on the lines. You want to cut it a little bit bigger. And this is on my fusible adhesive. I print it directly on the Heat and Bond fusible adhesive. You can print yours on regular paper and trace it, but this has got the adhesive on the back. You can feel that it's a little bit bumpy, and that's going to make this stick to your fabric. So you cut your piece out, even though it's not printed from edge to edge, you're going to cut it from edge to edge because it's 11 inches of paper, so that's going to perfectly fit your block. After you get the piece cut out roughly, you want to stick it to the fabric. So I'm going to put this out of the way and grab some fabric. And I'm just doing a nice green, kind of summer grassy green. And you lay this on the wrong side of the fabric. This doesn't have a right or a wrong side, but for the house pieces, you'll want to fuse it to the wrong side of the fabric. And you just give it a quick fuse with the iron. And now that paper is stuck to the fabric. The glue that was on the back of the paper has melted to the fabric. And I need to grab some fabric scissors. And I'm going to cut this, again, from the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper. First I'm just cutting it out roughly, just so I can maneuver it easier. And now I am going to cut it right on that line. Right off the edge of the paper. And same thing for the top curve. I'm just going to go from the edge of the paper to the edge of the paper. And then I'm just going to cut just a sliver off the edge of the paper because I want to make sure that that adhesive goes right up to the edge of the fabric. So I just cut those bits off. And now I've got the grassy ground for the bottom of my block. So I'm going to pull my block back into the frame here. And on this one I want the stripes to go up and down. So I'm going to peel the paper off the back of my grass. This is piece number 71 if you're following along with the pattern at home. And you can see that's left adhesive now on the back of the fabric. So that's already ready to stick down, but I'm not going to stick it in place yet. I'm going to just set it down at the bottom of the block, and then I'm going to leave it there because I'm going to tuck the house pieces behind it. So I'm going to grab the house pieces and show you how to build any block. So these are the pieces that we're working with this time. And I'll show you the numbers as we get to them. So I always like to start with the house first. The house is number 125. It's just a slightly wonky rectangle. It's almost got square corners, but not quite. Peel the back off. I've already fused these and stuck it down. And then the guideline when you're doing applique with fusible adhesive is you always want to stick a narrow piece behind a wider piece. So the ground is wider than the house. So the base of the house gets tucked behind the ground. Then I like to put the roof on. This roof is piece number 66, just a pretty standard trapezoid. Peel the back off. And now this piece is wider than the house piece. So again, the wider piece always goes on top. Tuck that on top there. Now I'm going to do a window. This is piece number 56. I actually have two pieces for the window. I'm going to make a window frame. So I've got a larger and a smaller version of the same basic shape. So the window frame is number 56. And I could set this with the wide side down, or I could set it with the wide side up. For now I'm going to do it with the wide side down. I like that. And then number 52 is the actual window. The fun thing about this is that once you get the backs peeled off, until you fuse it down, you can do anything you like, and you can rearrange and play with the pieces however much you like. So I'm giving it a nice little arched door. That is piece number 79. This would also make nice windows. And that is narrower than the ground, so it gets tucked behind the ground. Got a chimney here. That is piece number 60. And again, just like the window, I can put it wide side up or wide side down. And this time I'm going to put it wide side up. I think I'm going to put it on this side of the house. I want some smoke to come out of that chimney, so I'm going to use this kind of weird shape. I used it actually in another block already as a flower, but here it's going to be smoke, so it's number 18. And I'm just going to do one puff of smoke, oops, coming out of the chimney. Just put that up there. And then I want to put a house in the yard, or a tree in the yard. So for the tree trunk, I've got number 64, and it's just an irregular rectangle. And it's narrower than the ground, so it gets tucked behind the ground. And then the tree top is number 117. It's a very tall, skinny pine tree. It could also be the roof of a tall, skinny house, but here it's going to be a tree. And I'm going to just overlap that again. The wider piece goes on top of the narrower piece, and I've got the tree on there. So take a minute to look at everything, because once you fuse it down, it is stuck down forever. And I like how that all looks. So now, and only now, do I fuse it all in place. And you don't want to drag the iron when you're doing this. You want to just hold it and move it and then hold it. You want to lift it up to move it, because it will move the pieces until they're fused down. So I'm just moving it all around the surface of the block, making sure I get it all fused down. And I think that's pretty good. Yep, everything looks fused, feels fused. So the block is almost done. There's one more step, and that's doing some outline stitching around all the pieces. I'm not going to show you that at the machine, but I'm going to show you with that finished on a couple of blocks. So let me grab those. So here's an example. On most of them, I'm going to stow all around everything with black thread. I really like the cartoony effect that that gives, and it's simple. I don't have to change my thread every time. So the trick is to always do the pieces that are on top first. So for example, this grass is on top of everything. There's nothing sitting on top of that. So I'll do that top line first. If you look at the tree top is sitting on top of, is overlapping the trunk. So I want to do the tree top first, and then I'm going to do the trunk. It's tucked under the grass, which is stitched, and under the tree, which is stitched. So then I can go from stitching line to stitching line. On the house itself, the windows are, nothing is overlapping them, so I would do all the windows first. Then I could do the door, because the door is tucked under the grass and it'll be stitched already. Then I would do this roof ridge, go all around that, because it's sitting on top of the roof and on top of the chimney. So then I can do the chimney. This roof top is overlapping the bottom of the house. So I've stitched along the bottom of that rooftop. So always stitching along the topmost edge of things, and then finish up with those last two bits there. I also did this one in all black outlining. I just love how that looks. It's really, really simple to do. Here you can see this is the same as one of those cloud pieces, as the puff of smoke I used in that last block. But I want to show you one more option, and that is to use a contrasting color. So in this one, I've used the same color. So I've done green stitching on the green tree, pink or dark pink stitching on the pink roof. In all of these cases, I tried to do some contrast. I didn't try to match the color exactly. I tried to do either a much darker version or a lighter version so that the stitching line would show up. And I also did a little different on this. I stitched the snowy ground. So that's an option too. You can add some extra stitching to the ground. And that's it. Add any buttons or trim that you want to, and it's done. Ready to trim and put together into the final block. So that's it. A quick course on applique with fusible adhesive, specifically showing you how we're going to make the houses in the Shiny Happy Houses quilt pattern. I'm going to put a link to that pattern here in the video, and join us, and we're going to be building houses all year long. I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. I'll see you soon.